We are live.
Awesome. Daya, over to you. Take over.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. My name is Daya Prakash, and I'm your host today, as well as discussion facilitator for this morning. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of Businessworld to an insightful session being organized in association with Dell Technologies. In the past several months, we all have gone through the impact of pandemic, and we have seen it impacting our, each walk of our life. It has impacted almost all industries, and education sector is no exception. We all witness the shift from thinking digital to being digital, and you will agree with me that those who were thinking digital were the ones who were kind of struggling with the question of survival, and those who were being digital were the ones who thrived during this time. Talking particularly about the education sector, the need of the hour is that the education sector must promote intelligent learning. The new reality in education sector is learning anywhere, anytime. If we look at the post-pandemic times, it is clearly emerging out that the time is going to be of hybrid learning, which means a blend of learning in the physical classes as well as online. So this is going to stay as a trend. But I think to talk about this, it will be apt that our speaker, Dr. Atul Chauhan, shares his perspective with us on this because he is the authority, right? So today we are extremely fortunate to have Dr. Atul Chauhan, President Amity Education Group and Chancellor Amity University, to share his experience with us of the time that he has gone through of pandemic and its impact on the education sector. Before I invite him, let me share his brief introduction for everyone's interest. Dr. Atul Chauhan is the president of the not-for-profit Amity Education Group and the chancellor of Amity Universities. Over the last 30 years, Amity has established over 10 universities and multiple schools, institutions across India and 15 countries with 175,000 students all across. The flagship Amity University is the #1 ranked not-for-profit private university in India and the only one with the US regional accreditation and UK accreditation. The university offers over 400 degrees and is highly research and innovation focused. Dr. Chauhan, born and educated in Germany with the higher education in engineering and finance from UCL and LCE in London, is highly active in various government bodies and boards and is the recipient of multiple awards and honorary doctorates. Most recently, Dr. Chauhan was featured on the cover of Forbes magazine for his contribution to the education. And this is very special for me, Dr. Atul Chauhan. As I mentioned, that me, my wife, my son, we are all alumni of Amity. So I'm really looking forward to hearing some real life experience from you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Prakash. It is made extra special that you say that your whole family is Amityan. This is, I think, one of the greatest feelings one can get being in the field of education, that you meet such great leaders all across the world who share one feeling of family. So we are very happy. I would like to congratulate Businessworld and Dell for coming together to organize this very, very important session on the use of technology in student success. I think you chose this word, student success is so important, and everyone in the field of academics will resonate with it, because one thing I have seen over the last 30 years of being active in the field of education, that whoever comes, whether as a faculty or as an administrator or as a leader, they have a feeling of compassion, of passion for young people to ensure their success. And that is the ultimate dream for everyone who is a teacher. And for us at Amity, you have rightly said, in the last 30 years, we have we are in 15 countries. We have 175,000 students across the world. And for us, every student is absolutely important for us. And like for everyone, this pandemic that happened came as a shock. And I think one of the biggest lessons for any organization was that people had not planned for such a great impact. I mean, every organization plans that there will be some, in technology, you have a data center, if an earthquake happens, we will shift to another country. But no one really planned that the whole world would be impacted. But I think in the field of education, we were very lucky and fortunate that technology has played a great part in ensuring the continuity of education for all and most of the students. I think if this would happen 15, 20 years ago, what would have happened? It would have been very difficult without the broadband connectivity, without the prevalence of smartphones, of iPads and laptops, with students, with faculty members. So we were very fortunate that, and especially our country is at an advanced stage of having technology amongst a, I mean, of course, there is a large portion of the population which does not have access. And maybe later in the question and answers, I will, touch upon how we as Amity helped those, because we do have lots of schools for underprivileged boys and girls, who come from the slums and the villages, and how we supported them. But I think groups like Amity, because we've been very passionate about technology, we were in a very fortunate position that we could start teaching right from day one without our students missing a single day of class. This is our founder of Amity, Dr. Ashok Chauhan. He was and is a great businessman and entrepreneur. And when he set up the Amity institutions 30 years ago as the not-for-profit side of our family, it was with this passion to do things for, at that point, the young people, the brilliant youngsters of India, how to give them a platform. And I still remember about 2 decades ago, I was on a business trip in New York, and I went to the offices of a company we were dealing with, and they showed me this is an amazing new technology where we have something called Wi-Fi, that I can sit in this room and without having cables attached. And at that time, in India, we are at a very lucky position that we are able to jump technologies. We are at the advancements, latest edge of technology. But about 20, 25 years ago, we were still quite behind. And so then I called up my IT head in India. We were, of course, as Amity, much smaller. And I said, what is this Wi-Fi? I have not heard about this in India. And then he researched and he said, no one has Wi-Fi in India. We don't know. So I asked this person, he brought in his IT head. He said, there's this company in New York. You can go and they have routers, and never heard of what a router is. And you can just buy them. And I went to that shop. I put 20 pieces of those routers in my luggage, and I flew back to India, and I got held by customs, and they said, what is this? Are you starting a shop? Then I had to explain to them, that we want to have a technology in our university. And at that point, we became the first institution in India to have a Wi-Fi campus. So we've been very, very passionate about technology over these years. And because of that, we also became the first online government approved university with online education. So we have, over the last many decades, been educating students using technology. So when this pandemic hit, we were very ready. But as we shifted, and we were very lucky to have such dedicated faculty members, because it's a big change for a faculty who is sitting, who is used to having students in front of a class, in front of them, getting a real-time feedback, interacting, to suddenly being in front of a camera, not really seeing all the students, not getting a intimate feedback on where the students stand. It took some time for them to get used to it, but it was phenomenal that not only at Amity, but across universities and schools, how educationists took to technology. And I think what we have really also benefited from this pandemic, we should always look at the positive sides of anything that happens in life. that it has pushed academia. In academics, everyone perceives them to be slow changers, and technology was always there. Zoom was always there. Interactive platforms were always there. LMSs were always there, but institutions were not using them. And now the most heard thing said thing I hear from people is, why were we not using this technology earlier? And it is really awakened, especially in the academic world, that there's a huge benefit to using technology, because it brings in that aspect of personalized education. If you have assessments that are done online, you can really go to the granular level of what a student has learned, and you can also tailor make your education for each person. Normally, right now in a classroom, let's say at a university level, a normal class size is 40 students or 60 students. A faculty is teaching and everyone is getting the same input. But using technology, you can personalize it to a level that every student gets a personalized education system. So that is a huge benefit. But also what we saw was that there was a huge impact on the mental well-being of young people. Being stuck inside the house. Not in the end, we are social beings as humans. We need to have that interaction, and a very big part of a school or a university is the friendships you make, the time you spend in the cafeteria, in the library, together with your friends, and that was missing. So our team sat together that how can we increase the social interaction. Our physical education faculty started online Zumba, online yoga. And then also we have a very strong school of psychology where we have great clinical psychologists working with us. And we started a 24-hour online counseling helpline for our students. And then we saw the great impact it was having, that we even then extended to all the parents of our students. And we used to get lots of calls, which we were able to help. And why we made this a 24-hour helpline was that research shows that the largest number of tragic incidents in individuals happens in the middle of the night, when they have no one to talk to. So because of technology, you are able to save lives, because you are able to be in touch with someone visually and impact their life. So technology, in my mind, has had a great impact, will have a great impact in the future. And as technology increases, it will become a larger part of our lives. We have to really embrace technology and how it becomes. And there are, of course, many points, but I will close for now, and will be part of the question answers. Thank you, Mr. Prakash. Thank you.
You are on mute, Daya.
Thank you so much, Dr. Atul. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan. Who other than me, who has first-hand experienced the visionary, take of Amity University, that you've been always ready to adopt the technology. And once again, thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. Now I would like to kickstart the panel discussion. And the topic for today's discussion is driving innovation and student success. But before I start the discussion, let me welcome Mr. Venkat Sitaram to join Dr. Atul Chauhan for the same. A brief introduction of Mr. Sitaram. He is the Geo Head and General Manager responsible for corporate business and verticals like education, startup, healthcare. He is based out of Bangalore. He has been with the company for over a decade now. During his stint within the company, he has handled cross-functional sales roles, including BFSI vertical head, director for enterprise solution, sales and enterprise product management. Prior to joining Dell, he spent close to a decade at Wipro Infotech. He brings along with him an overall experience of 25 plus years in the IT industry. Welcome to the discussion, Mr. Sitaram.
Thank you, Mr. Daya. Thank you for a nice introduction, and it's good to be part of this session today, and really privileged to be sharing this panel with Dr. Chauhan. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Look forward to learning a lot from your practical experience. Again,
Same here.
once again, thank you, Mr. Venkat. Thank you, Dr. Chauhan. Let me now start the discussion on the topic by asking my first question to Dr. Chauhan. Dr. Chauhan, in a recent interview, you mentioned that in the future, private universities will lead the way. Could you please elaborate the same for us?
I think a very good question, and it's a statement I am quite passionate about. In our country, privatization of universities and higher education is really a revolution which has happened. Up till just a few decades ago, universities were a domain of the state. But if you see back to school education, many, many generations ago, the most brilliant students wanted to go to government schools. Somewhere that revolution happened, and the most brilliant students maybe go to the private schools. If you see around the world, let's say we take the United States, you take Stanford, Harvard, MIT, Yale, what are they? They are private, not-for-profit institutions. So they are private, but set up by philanthropists with a social mission. Universities like Amity are the same. They're established by philanthropists and benefactors like Dr. Ashok Chauhan, who are great businessmen who want to do for society, but they are private. So they are able to work at a very fast speed. So because we as a family are a large industrial family, we are used to meeting targets, using resources efficiently. We run our foundation in the same way, that every resource is valuable, has to be utilized. If I go back many years ago, we used to go to the government funding agencies, and we used to see that virtually no private institution in our country used to get funded. It used to go to government institutions. Then one day we sat down with the administrators and we said, just try once, give us your funds and see the efficiency of the use, the impact, the outcome that there will be on the money spent. And from that day onwards, if I look now, where we have 300 government projects, hundreds of crores of projects given by the government because they see the efficacy of the use of money. And every year we look at, when the rankings come out, everyone is concerned why are Indian universities not in the top 200, 400, 500 universities in the world when so much money is being spent. I think it's just the mindset of understanding what is required. And when we sat down and with our senior academic advisors around the world, we saw research was one of the biggest reasons why our Indian universities are not ranked. And intellectual property also was a big aspect. It is when I travel around the world, there was once a Chinese professor. He said, Dr. Chauhan, we really appreciate your Indian scientists. And I was like, oh, I'm very flattered. He said, no, but don't be flattered. We appreciate them because they do the research. They don't take intellectual property. We just read their papers and we take intellectual property on it. So they are gifting us research ideas. So then, our founder, Dr. Chauhan, he made a diktat in our universities that no faculty will publish unless they have intellectual property on that. We said that what is happening, that the most brilliant academic scientific minds are going to the corporate world because international organizations are setting up huge research centers in our country as back-end research centers, attracting the most brilliant PhDs to do work. Why are they not coming into academics? See, in the end, everyone needs the financial resources to support their family. So we said, if we can get intellectual property for our scientists, if we can work and get their technology and get them royalty on it, why should academicians not be multimillionaires also? So this is a mindset that is possible with private universities like what we see with Stanford in Silicon Valley. And this is what we are really trying to replicate at Amity in India, and what we're seeing many other private universities to do. So that is why I always say that that revolution will happen where private universities will be amongst the top ranked in India and the world.
And I'm sure your vision is going to be true one day, and that day is not too far off. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan. My submission to all the attendees of this particular session is that, while I'm asking the questions to my esteemed panelists, speakers, but please feel free to, ask your questions in the question answer window. And towards the end of the session, we will be taking those questions. So, please feel free to ask your questions, and please also mention the name of the speaker who you would like the question to be answered from. So continuing our discussion, coming to you, Mr. Sitaram, you heard Dr. Chauhan speak about how MIT University dealt with whole pandemic situation, and how the technology played a very vital role in making sure that not for a single day the university was closed, or the institutions were closed in real sense, because everything was possible online, and student didn't have to go through any sort of a loss of study for even a single day. So my question to you is, how quick and responsive was Dell Technologies to the education ecosystems during pandemic? And if you can share some of the significant things done on priority basis by Dell Technologies.
I think that's a great question. But before I go on to answer your question, Daya, I fully agree. I couldn't have agreed better to what Dr. Chauhan laid out his perspective on. Private universities are going through a revolution. That reminded me of a small saying that our president of the company keeps telling us. Who will evolve in future, is determined by who is fast versus who is slow. And this is not just for the technology industry, it is for any industry. I mean, I pick a big learning from that. What is going to determine is who's going to be fast versus who's going to be slow. It's not small versus big. I think there's a great meaning in that. And when I relate that to what Dr. Chauhan laid out, I think it's perfectly right. So thank you, Dr. Chauhan, for setting the context. I think it's really wonderful to see the progress Amity is making, and closely working with Amity University. It's a privilege, and it's a matter of pride for us. Now, coming specific to the question about what Dell did during the pandemic to enable education institutions, I think fundamental shift and change that we all are seeing is everything is coming home. Learning is coming home. Entertainment, food is coming home. What was behind that? It is technology is bringing everything to home, right? Work is coming home. As I speak, I'm working from home. So work has also come home. That's a big shift that's happened, and one of the industries which is on the forefront of leaning towards the shift is, in my mind, no doubt, education. Having understood this shift earlier at Dell, because we were not new to remote working. You talked about my profile, and you mentioned that I spent about decade plus in Dell. When I joined the company in 2010, I suddenly saw a work from home culture in the company being embraced at that point in time. It is a decade plus now. For me, it was a shift. I mean, I was not used to earlier part of my career. I said, how does it work? I mean, is it really possible? And then we went through it over the past few years. Now here comes pandemic, which became a catalyst in completely shifting everything, right? People had no choice to do this. So what that did is a readiness to enable any business to that environment. So coming straight for education, I think we believe that we were much earlier ready on how this shift will need to be addressed. Therefore, in our product engineering innovation, we brought in those enablers which will help students and faculties. We talked about experience being an important thing. faculty experience, student experience is becoming a paramount of importance today. And we also looked at emerging technologies which are going to disrupt education, things like AI, completely changing in the way students collaborate, etc. Right? We brought in those features in our devices. We enabled access. We wrapped a security layer around it, and then we brought in those, research enablement for teachers. No size, one size fits all is our approach. A faculty who is teaching a student needs a different technology access. A student who is receiving that input from a faculty or anybody else needs a different technology access. If the institution is providing that to both, they need to provide something very different. This wasn't the thought earlier, but I think this pandemic has enabled that thought amongst institutions, academicians, students, and technologists. I think all are coming together. And with content being available anywhere today, I think it's becoming paramount importance of looking at these considerations. So it's a best technology, and I borrow this word from Dr. Chauhan, efficacy of the use of technology will determine how fast you will move in this journey. And I'm more than confident and delighted to share that Dell is enabling a lot in that space, bringing out newer solutions for better access and devices which are very, very user friendly and convenient to use, and of course highly secure. We're playing in the forefront, and we believe that we will continue to play in the forefront for some more time in the years to come. I think it's us with better preparation and early understanding and bringing that innovations in what you bring to the table. That has been a significant contribution in my mind that has helped education institutions to quickly move.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sitaram. Dr. Chauhan, if I may come to you now, Mr. Sitaram spoke about some of the new age technologies. He mentioned about AI, machine learning, and I also, keep, learning through people's experience on the application of the new age technologies such as AR, VR, etc. And in addition to what Mr. Sitaram already spoke about. So what has been your take, how the universities, colleges, institutions have been able to adopt these technologies for the advantage of or working towards the goal of student success? Dr. Chauhan.
I think what Mr. Sitaraman said was absolutely right. The theory of survival of the fittest is changing to survival of those who can adapt at the right pace. I think this pandemic has shown that pivot or perish is the mantra to go forward to. And I think in the field of academics, it has become very clear to everyone that, and especially at the higher education level, that institutions need to fundamentally relook at how education is provided. Because one thing which I always used to say was that schools across the world have adopted technology much faster than higher education has. Since many, many years, schools are using whiteboards, students are using tablets to be educated, content has been digital. And what would have happened is that within a few years, this generation of young people for whom digitalized education is a way of life. It is for parents who have young children, they all have gone through this experience that, a young toddler, they will go to a television and they'll say, I can't swipe the television. It's there's something wrong with the television. So this is the generation that is growing up. So what would have happened is these young people using tablets, using smart boards would have come into university, and they would have felt we have joined some archaic institution. We have gone back in time. So this has now pushed universities into it, and at Amity, we have been doing a lot of research, and one thing that we have found, what is happening in young people is their attention span is getting shorter and shorter. Traditionally universities have 1 hour classes, large numbers. But what is happening if we see, the social media, even the cricket matches, from test matches to T20. Now somewhere I saw T10s are being played, to these videos. Now, earlier there was these platforms. Now video platforms are there where you see a video for 20 seconds. So the young people are wanting content in smaller and smaller. So as an academic leader, I feel that is a very uh, wrong direction society is going into, and something that we are working towards, to educate our students on how to build that patience, to build that resilience. But at the same time, what we have done, for example, in our online education, is we are making our teaching units. We did a lot of research with tens of thousands of people, and we saw that the optimum attention span is 7 minutes for an academic learner. So we have built our education into small units where they go, and then they have evaluation after that 7 minutes. And according to what they have understood, how they answer, they will be played a different video. So it becomes, through artificial intelligence, through intelligence in the system, a student will really get a personalized education. So for everyone in the academic field, we're grateful to organizations like Dell, who are bringing out such great hardware, software solutions to assist, because in the end, without technology that organizations like Dell bring out, academicians or faculty members will not be able to give to the students what is required. So in the future, institutions will have to adapt and adopt and imbibe technology, otherwise they will become redundant. But at the same time, saying that, I strongly feel that only technology is not the solution. There has to be a hybrid mode, because education is not just knowledge. It is a lot to do with how you grow as human beings, as individuals. See, in the end, we cannot compete as humans against artificial intelligence. The knowledge repository a computer can have, the computational powers a computer can have, will at one point outbeat our brain. But one place where computers and artificial intelligence will not be able to beat us is the empathy, the compassion, the ability to understand other people. And that is where we need to, as institutions, build. We need to build that this resilience in human beings, so that in the future, we are able to control the technology and not have the technology control us. That is my view.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan. While I completely, agree with you when you say that, the whole, student experience is dependent on how well we interact, and, the attention span and everything that you brought out in this, discussion. But at the same time, I would like to stay with you, Dr. Chauhan, for, few more minutes. And, because of the pandemic, obviously it was not possible for all to come together. And, I personally happened to be the part of the convocation, the online convocation that happened very recently at MIT,
Right.
which had to be done online because there was no other way, right? So, I mean, if you can kindly share some experience on that, because, my son was part of that, receiving the degree.
Okay, no, see, it is a convocation, I always say, is one of the greatest milestones in any person's life. It is, if you look back, let's say at the age of 50, you look back on your life, or even later, there are maybe 8, 9, 10 milestones which are very, very clear in your mind. And a convocation is one of them. And though I still have a strong feeling that there's nothing that can beat uh, being in person on your campus, showing your family, interacting with your friends after so many months. But then what we teach our students is that you have to make the best of the situation that you are given. In life, you will always have limited resources. You will always have extraneous situations. There are two ways you can work in life. One is you are negative about it, you moan about it, your mind shuts down. But we tell our students that in times of crisis is when your mind needs to work better and faster than anything else. And we took a decision that we want to give the best possible experience to our students to come and interact, and they should feel a pride that I have got my degree, and be able to share this experience with their family members. So we had in this convocation we had about 20,000 students getting their degrees, and from all over the world, from all over the country. So our people made an amazing platform where they could come, they could interact, and where the medalists got their medals and their degrees. And it is, but at the same time, though our people organize an absolutely amazing online convocation, we will still give an opportunity to our students that when we next hold it in person, we will tell all our students, whoever wants to still have that in-person experience, they will be very welcome to come back next year to the convocation on campus and participate. And about talking about convocations, a virtual convocation is something which is not new to us. We have been doing it for many years, because Amity was part of the government of India's initiative as the Pan-Africa education. So the government, the President Abdul Kalam ji at that time committed to the African countries to provide sponsored education to students in Africa by the Indian government. And the Indian government identified 10 universities, mostly government, one or two private ones, where they set up through TCIL satellite centers on our campus and across top universities in Africa. And our faculty members sitting here in India were educating students sponsored by the Indian government in Africa. So every year, I, as a chancellor, have been bestowing degrees virtually. So it's a phenomenal thing. In front of my screen, I see students in Uganda, Rwanda, Nigeria, and they all stand up, and I give them the medal and I give them the degree. So something which is not possible physically still brings that attachment and that joy because of technology. So we have to see that because of technology, we are able to do things which we otherwise could not. It may not be the most optimum, but doing something is better than doing nothing. So it has been a great enabler for us.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan. Mr. Sitaram, you heard Dr. Chauhan share his experience about the online convocation, a lot of other things that, you would have seen in the other education institutes in India. So would you like to share some of your experience on this or any take on this?
Yeah, I again completely second what Dr. Chauhan said. I think there are certain things where the personal touch becomes very important. Even in a working environment, we really feel that meeting in person is invaluable today, which wasn't realized earlier, but we now understand how invaluable it is, because the social touch is very important. If I were to compare that and put myself in a student's shoes, I have no doubts in my mind that one would want to be in the campus, interacting with faculties, interacting with friends, and that's something that creates that collaboration, and that's a new C that is required in the 21st century. See, one C definitely stands for collaboration. So people should know how to learn from each other, working, sharing ideas, and that drives innovation. Firm believer of that. But if you look at what is fundamentally changing, and what is the fundamental driver of this change, and that is leading to this innovation, and from my perspective, it is the student itself. I think the students are changing. They have changed. The newer generation is completely tech savvy. That's enabling them to leverage technology much earlier than what we all used to do when we were students. That combined with the world that is changing, I think we have already entered a human machine partnership era. Sitting anywhere today, we're talking to machines. As I do this call, I'm actually using a machine's intelligence and communicating with all the participants and sharing the panel with esteemed panelists. So it is technology that is enabling it, but the need for students and the changing world is compelling to do this change. And why this is happening, I think the skills that are needed for future are definitely not the skills that exist today. So therefore, there is a huge expectation from the universities on preparing them for the future world. I think that's the whole context in which we are doing things which otherwise we would have done in 5 years from now. I think we are doing it today. What we would end up doing 10 years from now, I think we will end up doing in 3 years from now. So those advancements are happening. We're seeing a dramatic change.
Sure.
Universities, institutions, students who take advantage of this, who are seen early, I think will see a lot of benefits in terms of their readiness for the future world. I think that's a perspective that I just wanted to add from whatever I've learned from Dr. Chauhan's.
Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sitaram. Dr. Chauhan, if I may come to you, Mr. Sitaram spoke about, the responsibility of the institutions to prepare the workforce of tomorrow, right? He touched upon this aspect, and you've been in the position where you can influence this or, determine this, in fact. I would like to come to you with a statement of Dr. Ashok Chauhan, because he mentioned that each student of Amity will become a success story. Would you like to tell us more about this statement of Dr. Ashok Chauhan?
No, it is amazing. Of course, now I understand, because you are an Amity and as a family, you know that our founder, Dr. Chauhan, he is the driving vision behind what Amity is all about. And what he always says and what drives everyone at Amity is the student. Dr. Chauhan tells every student that the dream for us is that you are successful in life. In the end, and something that when we interact with the students face to face or online, one of the dictats that we give to them is that for any parent, what is the biggest dream they have in their life? And that is to see their son, their daughter successful in life. When people go into society, you go to a family function or a party, people will always introduce you, this is the son of so-and-so, this is the daughter of so-and-so. What is the dream of a parent? What is the dream of a mother or a father? That when is the day when people will go, I will go to a function and they will say, this is the mother and father of so-and-so. That is what you dream for your child, that one day they will have the skill sets, they will have the value system, that they will be independent on their feet, they will provide for their family, they will provide for me as a parent who has sacrificed so much for them. And right when a student joins us, we start giving them this, that your responsibility at this point is not just educating yourself. Your responsibility, larger responsibility, is taking care of your family, taking care of society. When you become leaders in your organization, your responsibility is to take care of the thousands of family members who are working for you. And you have to become successful. So it is, young people need to be given a goal, a mission in life, and the mission that we give. And the motto of Amity, which we have just recently coined and will be announcing to the world, is together we will change the world. Every student of Amity is taught that you have a larger mission in life. That if we today dream of our country becoming a great superpower of the world, if we dream that the world will become a better place to live in, a more harmonious place to live in, it is on the basis of the young people today who are at school and university. And this is what young people need to understand, that it is important for them to work so hard that they become successful in life. But always remember that with the success that they get, always remain humble, always remain down to earth, always take care of people around us. And we tell our students that as an Amity student, family member, you are family for life. As a parent, we will be together throughout your lives, in your ups and downs, to share in your success, in your sorrows. And this is the dream of Dr. Chauhan when he says that to create a family of hundreds of thousands of people around the world who have the same vision, the same mission to make our society a better place. And so Amity is not just academic institutions.
Sure.
Amity is a movement to create responsible young people who will be successful and compassionate for others. That is the mission of Dr. Chauhan.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. And thank you so much for, helping us understand what he meant, truly meant. This is wonderful. This is great. I have few questions from audience, sir. And I would like to particularly start asking you the question that I've received, the first question, and then go to Mr. Sitaram also on the same. But I think while we are talking about the new hybrid, manner in which the education is going to be imparted, the one question that we have received, from Mary Benson is that do you really believe that physical education can be imparted efficaciously via online platforms, sir?
I think, from the experience, there has to be a hybrid mix. See, in terms of students, there are multiple categories of students. There is one category of students for whom pure online education is the best. You have the working professionals, you have people who cannot have access to physical campuses. For them, pure 100% online works the best. And there are a lot of ways to engage them. But my very strong belief is that for young people, the hybrid mode of education will be the future, where you have a great campus experience, where you have interaction with your faculty members, you have interaction with for example, if Mr. Sitaram comes and speaks to our students online, it's a different experience than if he comes. He is, we get great professionals like him all the time to come to campus. You're standing, you're holding a cup of tea, you have 5 students around you, they're asking you questions. You can see the smiles on their faces. That interaction cannot be replicated. But so what we have been doing, and what universities have understood and will do, and I feel will become a norm across higher education institutions, is the concept of blended and flipped learning, where the theory will be taught online. At the moment, one of the big problems in our Indian academic systems is that something which students prefer and faculty also prefer is coming into the classroom, standing in front of the whiteboard and just writing formulas, writing theory, and students enjoy copying it. A student does not feel satisfied until he's got a whole 10 pages of notes that he has taken by the end of the hour. The change will happen is that faculty will record their theory. Students will learn that on their own time, and when they come to class, it will be applied. On how do you apply the knowledge to real world problems? Because in the end, that is what the industry is wanting. Industry needs, I think one of the biggest skills that industry needs is the ability to analyze data, the ability to understand problems and come out with solutions. No one wants that you say, okay, this is the theory behind it. If a young person joins an organization, their boss wants that they come with solutions to them. It is, if anyone comes to me and says, this is the problem, I say, what should I do with your problem? You tell me, what is the solution? So young people need to be taught how to apply the knowledge. There's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. Wisdom is how you apply the knowledge that you have. And that is what we have. So at Amity, we have a chair professor for wisdom. How do you inculcate wisdom in young people is what we are studying. So really, that is the need of the future, and how technology will help academics and university to focus on what is important. And the theory, as Mr. Sitaram said very rightly, content is available free of cost. You can get content from the top universities, top professors from around the world. So what is it that you learn? It is how to apply the knowledge that you learn. That is the role.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan, for sharing your views on this question. If I may come to you, Mr. Sitaram, from a, you being technocrat, so let me ask you the same question. How far, as a technocrat, you think that these two worlds can be, merged or mixed to kind of, replicate the whole physical education environment into the online education environment? Your views on that, Mr.
Yeah,
Sitaram.
absolutely. In fact, I took the onus of answering the questions live, and in answering, so I did mention today it's also important to integrate PE with the hybrid environment. I think the advent of esports is on the rise, and when I speak to a lot of other institutions, I keep hearing that they have already started, imparting them as part of the training routine. Um, and with the tech savvy inborn skills of the students, I think they prefer even today, that as an area, so that it's not just about academics, but balancing academics with PE. And again, borrow what Dr. Chauhan said in the beginning. You have
Sure.
all the yoga classes that can be done online, Zumba, and various other formats, right? That's
Right.
available today online. So it's a blend. Here is where the resourcefulness comes in, planning comes into play. So the institutions which does think resourcefully, plan early, I think they're able to structure all of this and put those ingredients which can give a complete flavor to the recipient, which in the form of his student.
Sure.
And that is creating an exciting environment for a blended learning.
Sure.
There are certain irreplaceables like meeting somebody in person that will continue to be there. Technology beyond a point can't fulfill that. But I think that's where in a blended environment, you get to have the mix of coming to the campus. At the same time, you have that privilege of sitting anywhere, learning anywhere. And that is to be imparted in conjunction with the readiness for tomorrow.
Sure.
That's paramount importance today. And I would encourage institutions to look at that as a key focus area.
Sure.
And any form and shape Dell can help. We'll be more than happy to engage and share our thoughts and our perspectives. It's not just about giving us technology product from us.
Mhm.
It's about
Sure.
those
Sure.
things that are changing, that we are learning in the industry, and sharing those thoughts and sharing those student enriching experience.
Sure.
I think will be the key.
Sure. Thank you so much. I think we are towards the end of this session. I know that all of you have your own commitments, and I won't hold you back. Post 12:30, there are about 5-6 minutes, but there are some key questions that have come up from the attendees here, which I want them to be addressed by you. So, Dr. Chauhan, if I may come to you, very important point has come up from one of the attendees here, and it says that what's your take on, is Indian industry ready for the online studied professionals, the acceptance of the professionals who've gone through the online education? Big challenge.
I think that is a challenge because of the I think it's more of a perception issue that was there, that an online education is inferior to a face-to-face education. I think the industry is also realizing, and it is changing. From what we see, we have hundreds of thousands of students online who are working professionals. When we see their career progression that they are making, the salary increments, the promotions they get on the basis of online education, it is phenomenal. And I think the industry really has to lead the way to define what is the skill set that they need. And what we're seeing even in online education, the sort of courses that are being done, the upskilling courses, one of the biggest needs that the industry has given to academic institutions is the need for lifelong learning. Traditionally, education has always been pushed to the beginning of someone's life. By the time you're 24, 25, your education is finished. But what is becoming clear with the such fast changes in job profiles, in technologies, that individuals have to continuously upgrade the skills that they have. And the industry understands that, they support that. And if someone is not upgrading themselves continuously through life, they will not survive in the corporate world. So online education will always play a very, very big part to support the industry.
Sure. Thank you so much. One more question for you, sir. You please stay there. One more question for you, which is, this is a question from one of our attendees, Mr. Manoj. He says that really happy to understand that MIT is into IP-focused research, but currently academic research in India has least impact on our socio-economic life. So what's your suggestion and guiding directions will you give to the Indian academia to have impactful research happening in our university campuses, which addresses the socio-economic life?
I think it is a very relevant question, and universities have multiple roles to play. What differentiates a university and a teaching institution is that universities have to be generators of knowledge. Now, research can have, there is one, the intrinsic research that has to be done, but where private universities can have a lot of impact is the applied research for industry. One thing what our country is lacking, which we see all over the world, is the confidence that the corporate world has in outsourcing research to universities. We hardly see that in our country. And for that research revolution to happen in our country, we need to convince the corporate world that you can rely on universities to do research for you. And that is where universities like Amity are leading the way, where we sit with the industry and we ask them, what is the problem that you are facing? How can we solve? We sit with government organizations. What is the problem that needs to be solved? And we have a great wing on frugal innovation. How can you help through innovation the people at the bottom of the pyramid? Because that is what our country needs. So universities have to focus on that very theoretical side of the research. There is a need for that. But our country, there is a big need for applied research. And I saw one of the questions also asked about how to inculcate this research in young people. And another thing that Indian universities were not focusing on, which we are now doing and everyone else, is at the undergrad level to allow students to go into research labs, to work with the research scientists and professors and start that feeling of research. Why should you have to wait till post-graduation PhD level? And I'm so proud that within Amity, we have hundreds of students at the undergrad level who have filed patents, who are commercializing their technology. This feeling of scientific temper has to be inculcated at a very, very young age. And universities are really responsible for that.
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan. If I may come to you, Mr. Sitaram, and very interesting question for you. Very interesting question. And a lot of potential to learn for all of us. So someone has asked, Mr. Muhammad Mansoor, who's asked this question to you, saying that please share a challenging requirement that you had to fulfill, and how did you, fulfill this during the pandemic?
Well,
interesting question.
Great question, Mr. Mohammed, and I took the privilege of answering that question on the platform itself, but I'll also repeat myself. I think it's all about trend spotting. It's all about being proactive and early anticipation. This applies to an individual, this applies to a business, applies to an industry. When you're in that space, your ability to understand the other side of the requirement to that extent makes you well prepared. So I gave an example of a university who wanted to quickly switch gears into a non-disruptive online learning during the lockdown, and they just had only 2 weeks with them. So we had to really work with them, customize a solution for students and faculty, both sides, get the content in preloaded so that when the solution reaches the recipient's hands, which could be a teacher or faculty or a student, they are up and live. And to do that in a record time of about 2 weeks during the lockdown, when enforcement measures like vehicle movement to everything was regulated, was a massive challenge. It was a big learning, and I think that's where we really understood the power of anticipation, being proactive, and engaging ourselves early with customers. That helped us to plan better And in a record time, we nearly mobilized 2,000 plus students on online platform very quickly, which nobody would have otherwise done or ever imagined. 1 year prior, you asked me this, even I would have never imagined that we could do it. But I think this has brought in that new capability within ourselves, right? So very challenging, but yet it's for all good cause, and we were happy to be contributing for the benefit of the institution and student success. So things like that will go on in your memory for a long time, and we really cherish that for being a contributor. Daya, back to you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Sitaram. Thank you so much. Dr. Chauhan, I will come to you for my last question to you, sir. Because in the beginning, you remember we spoke about MIT doing a lot for underprivileged section, right? And that's something that we have not touched upon in the discussion so far. But I want you to spend a minute, sir, on helping us understand how technology is being provided to the bottom of the pyramid people, especially on the underprivileged and the less privileged side.
Yes, I mean, I think that was, of course, a very big challenge for everyone. But what has happened is the prevalence of smartphones, even for people at that level, and the support that they get, and the really low cost broadband connectivity that exists in our country has really benefited the vast majority of young people across the country. And our teachers adapted small WhatsApp sessions for them. So, even though they were not able to get live education, but through recorded videos through WhatsApp, and then people innovated through radio channels and through television channels. And I think, and I have, because we have colleagues all across the country in the field of education, and it's so heartwarming to see the extra efforts that everyone did to do their best to ensure that no child, if possible, misses out in their education. And I think as Indians, we should be very, very proud that we as a nation take care of our fellow young, people of our country. We have this compassion. And I think this is the biggest strength. If we see all over the world, why people respect India and Indians is because we take care of other people. And our biggest lesson to young people is never, always take the best things from the west of the world, but never lose the biggest strength that we as Indians have, the heritage, the values, the sanskars, the power of blessings you get from elders. So never lose the feeling of respecting your elders and taking care of the youngsters. This is the biggest strength we as Indians have.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for your participation, sir. And to Mr. Sitaram, thank you so much to Dell Technologies for giving us, being associated with us and giving us the opportunity to host this fantastic, session today. But I would like to come to you, Mr. Sitaram, and would like to request you to kind of share some, thoughts to summarize this session today. I really learned a lot, and I again thanks Dr. Chauhan very much. And thanks to you, Mr. Sitaram, but we'll be keen to hear from you. What are your learnings from this session?
No, I can't complete my summary without saying thank you. And it was a great learning, firstly. And the partnership is mutual with BW. So, and I must thank Amity University and Dr. Chauhan for your continued patronage. I think it's because of customers like you we exist. So it means a lot for us. And thank you for the motivation. Yeah, I think we are in a pivotal moment of a big shift. I would say it's a culture of learning has to change. I think that's something that is a journey that all of us are embarking today. And technology is a big catalyst in this cultural shift. Now, since I touched upon culture of learning, let me just add a couple of points there. And I'm sure many must be thinking, what is this? Why this culture of learning is shifting? I think we have understood through the last 1 hour that the world is changing, the needs of the industry is changing, and that is compelling everybody to work differently, think differently, etc. But when the culture of learning, I think I would like to say that problem solving, I pick up from what Dr. Chauhan said, this is a must skill today for the future. think everybody is looking at problem solving when you come to jobs. And most importantly, I wanted to say that the dispositions that are needed are growth mindset and I would say grit. What industry today is looking at is not the how good are you or he or she is in an academic, but it's all about, do you have that growth mindset and do you have the problem solving skills and you have that grit in you. I think that is getting people places. If this need, which I call it as a cultural change in the learning, is recognized by the not just the student but also the institution, and these will start getting imparted during the academy itself by use of technology, I think we will end up creating more talent and more IP of students for the industry, and that'll become invaluable. And India, being a progressive nation, I think all our efforts and contributions are in that direction, on how do we make our talent scale and take up positions which are unheard of. So Dell is working in that direction very, very strongly. And thanks to universities like Amity, who's been a long-term partner with us, we really value the association. We'll continue to bring in more and more and help this journey of building skills for the nation.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Sitaram. Thank you so much, Dr. Chauhan. And I think people who are attending this session today, they all stand committed to the wonderful cause, the statement of Dr. Ashok Chauhan, which is, let's together make an impact, contribute towards change. So thoroughly enjoyed today's session, and I can't thank enough to you, Mr. Sitaram, Dell Technologies, and to you, Dr. Chauhan, Amity University, for partnering us with Businessworld in today's session. And I hope everyone got some great perspective and everybody got some picture of how the world is going to look like, in tomorrow's or today's new normal. So thank you so much for coming here and sharing your practitioner's view with us, all of us. Thank you so much. Take care. Have a great day.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.